Welcome back to Library Choice YouTube channel. Today we'll be learning how to make this beautiful detail on a dress. You can attach it to a blouse or a dress. It's really simple to make and it's very beautiful. So if this is what you would like to, kindly stay tuned to the end of this tutorial. Thank you. So to get the measurements you'll be working with, you need to measure from your center front here to wherever you want it to stop. So in my case, the measurement from here to this place gave me 11 inches. That's for the longest part. So for the short part, I'll just be subtracting 3 inches from the 11 inches, and that is going to give me around 8 inches. Okay, so now let's go to the cutting table so that we can draft and cut out this beautiful piece. So to do this elegant detail, remember the first measurement we took was 11 inches, while the second one was 3 inches shorter, which is going to be around 1 2 3 8 inches. Yours can be 2 inches shorter depending on how you want it. Okay, so now I'm putting my fabric on fold because I'm cutting the lining and the main fabric together, and I'm using the same doll face fabric for lining and main fabric. You can use scuba or any other fabric that you wish to use. So now I'm going to be putting this on fold, and then I'm going to be measuring the 11 inches. So I'm going to add ½ inch allowance to it, which is going to make it 11.5. okay, so now the breadth of the fabric is going to be 11.5 on fold, and then the length is going to be around 8 inches with allowance. Okay, so now I'm going to measure out my 11.5 inches now, and then I'm going to make it into a straight line. Okay, so I've measured out my 11.5 inches for the longest one, and then I have it like this. So it's 11.5 by 8 inches. So now I'm going to cut this off. And remember I said it has to be cut on fold, the 11.5 inches. So I'm cutting the main fabric and the lining together. So I have two pieces here. So this is for the longest one, and for the short one I said I wanted to use 3 inches difference, but I just changed my mind now, and I think 2.5 inches difference is fine for me. So instead of 8 inches, I'll be using 8.5 now, and then I'll add ½ inch allowance to it to make it 9 inches, and the length remain the same with this 8 inches length. The only difference is in the breadth. So now I'm going to cut this off also, and then I have this as my main fabric and lining also on fold. So now this is how we'll be putting them together. We'll have something like this. Okay, so you can see the space that I have here is okay for me. I have it here now. We are going to be adding stay to this. You can add any stay you have, but a strong stay will guarantee you that you have something really standing firm. Remember, the design is standing on its own and it's really lovely. So if you have a hard collar stay or a peplum stay, you can use it, but I'll be working with gum stay for this tutorial, so I'll be adding it on both lining and fabric. But if you have like a collar stay, you can just add it on the lining piece. It's still going to work for it. So I'm using gum stay, and I'll be adding it, and I may also add a boning to this. Okay, a boning will also make it stand firm. And then I've been getting questions from people on how you can add boning to your fabric and then line it. So I just want to use this opportunity to show us how we can add this boning to our fabric and also line our fabric. So now to shape it, you may decide to shape it, or you can just leave it like this at this hem line where you're attaching it to your chest. Then you are going to be pleating it like this by the time you are done. So once you pleat it like this, to have something like this, it is still going to give you this exact design, but the only difference is that when you pleat it like this, it may have like rows around here. So if you don't want this, then we can easily shape this. And to shape this now, I'll be putting this on fold like this. Remember, the 8 inches is like this because I want something equal on both sides. So I'll be putting it on fold to have around 4 inches. Once I have this, so after putting it on fold like this, from the center fold here, remember this is the open part, I'm going to be taking a measurement of 1.5 inches, or depending on how you want it tapered inward. Remember, I'm doing this because I don't want to pleat it. Okay, you can also pleat it if you don't mind having some pleats around your your sleeve, your design. But the only difference is that once you pleat it like this, the pleat is going to extend to this area, and if you don't want all this rumpled part, that is why we are shaping it like this. So once you put it on fold and you measure your 1.5 inches, remember 1.5 inches of fold is going to give me 3 inches when opened. I'll use my straight ruler and then connect it to this other edge like this, and then I'm going to connect it diagonally like this. So once I connect it diagonally, I'm going to trim this off. And see, this is really simple to make and it's really elegant. So once I trim it off and I open it, this is what I will have. And by the time I open it up, I'll have around 3 inches. So by the time I sew it in to turn with lining, I'll be left with 2 inches. If this is too big for you, you can further go inside and trim it. So the same thing I did here, I'm going to be repeating on the smaller one also. Okay, so I've done the same thing on the second one also, and this is what I have. Remember, it can be small. If you want it smaller, you just measure like 1 inch instead of the 1.5 inches that I measured on fold, and then you connect it like this. So now I'm going to take this to my iron now and then add gum stay to this. Okay, this is the main fabric now, and this is going to be my lining for the small one. This is the main fabric for the big one, and this also is going to be my lining. Iron gum stay to both the lining and the main fabric. And remember, I said I ironed on both of them because the gum stay I'm working with is very soft. If you are working with a collar stay, you can iron on just the lining. So now the next thing I'm going to do now is to add boning to this. If you are using a very strong collar stay or peplum stay and you are sure that it's not going to lose its form when you wash it, you may not add this to it. But I've been getting a lot of requests on how to line with boning. That's why I just want to use this opportunity to teach this. So we have different types of boning. We have this regular boning that we can sew on, and we have this plastic boning that you cannot sew on. Okay, so this is quite thicker and harder than the regular boning. So I'll be using this, and I'll also be explaining how you can turn with lining with a plastic boning also. So for this now, I'm going to take this to the sewing machine, and then I'm going to leave a little allowance to turn it because you cannot turn on the boning. So I'm going to be placing the boning like this, leaving this allowance for my sewing, for turning my lining, and then I'll leave small space up here also, and then I'm going to sew it like this on both sides of the pattern. Okay, I'm going to sew like this and like this, then I'll bring it back to show us. Okay, so you've ironed this. Now you're going to be ironing it on the lining because the same line is going to show on the other side like this. So now to turn it, you just need to place the main fabric against it like this, and then the seam line, the last seam line that you have here that you use to attach your boning, you sew it and then you use it to turn it out. So now because we've added boning to this, turning it out may be a bit difficult, especially if this mouth here is tiny. Okay, so mine is tiny. I'm just going to leave like a bit of space here so that I can turn it out. It may be a bit challenging, but it is not impossible. Okay, so now I'm going to be placing it against each other now, and then I'm going to sew it on both sides now so that we can turn it out. So I've gone ahead to join the main body to it, and you can see how I just sew it like this, following the last seam line I have on my boning, sorry, and I left small space here on this side so that I can easily turn it out. Like I said, the mouth of mine is a bit tiny, and because of the boning it may be a bit challenging to turn, but it's possible. So now I'm going to be turning this out so that we will see what we have. Okay, so I've successfully turned it out now, and you can see it's looking stubborn. So now I'll take it to the ironing table. We need a good iron for this so that I can press it down and everything will be neat. So when I press it, I'll bring it back so that I can explain how we can insert a plastic boning. So I've gone ahead to iron it, and you can see that it's looking really flat. So this is the right side now, and you can see there is no seam line on it, and this is the wrong side. This is where our boning seam line is showing. Okay, so now let's say you want to add a plastic boning that you cannot sew on. So what you're going to do is, after turning it with lining like this, you are going to be creating a channel by sewing. So the casing you will be creating will be enough to pass this your boning through. So you can easily place the boning on it like this, then you measure, so you know where you'll be sewing. So that means you're going to be sewing like this to create a casing for your boning. So once you do that to both sides, you take your boning and then you insert it through this space that you have here, and then you insert your boning through it. And that is how you can put a boning in your fabric with lining. So if you're working with a plastic boning that you can sew on, that is a simple way of putting it through your lining and your main fabric. Okay, now that we have this, everything that I've done here, I need to do it on the shorter part also. And then after this, I'm just going to fold this over, okay, like this. You can see how it's folding, but because I don't want mine to be this big, so I'm going to be ironing it so that it can lie flat for me. Assuming you are passing it around your shoulder, this is really perfect for it. You can see that it gives enough room for your hand to be, and because of the boning, it's just standing out really beautifully. Can you see that? So now I want mine to be flat because I'm just putting it on the front panel. So I want something like this. So I can decide to use my hand, or if it's not flat enough for me, I can take it to the iron also to iron it so that I can have something like this. Okay, so I think I'm okay with what I have here. So now I'll bring the second one also on it so that we'll see what it's looking like. Okay, so this is the shorter part. I'm just going to fold it the same way I did for the long one, and then I'll place it on it now, and then I can use a serger to finish these edges. Okay, then I'm going to sew them together to hold this before I place it on my dress. After sewing it together, you have something like this, and like I said, you can finish off these edges with a serger. So now to attach this to your dress, you can attach it directly at the center front here, and then you cover this up with trimming, or you can just place it like this. You sew it in from this other side here, and then when you sew it, by the time you turn it out here, this side will be neatly finished for you. And you can also attach this, you can also design this with a trimming also. Okay, so this is what it looks like after attaching a trimming to it. You can attach a trimming of your choice to decorate it. You can even attach trimmings to these lines here, just to have something beautiful and unique. You can see how simple and beautiful this is looking. If you enjoyed this tutorial, let us know in the comment section. Give it a thumbs up, like, subscribe to our channel if you haven't, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.